Hello, and welcome back to the final episode of Let's Build a Graflex. On today's episode, we're going to be focusing on changing the sound fonts in our Saber, as well as I will go over a quick tutorial on how to edit some of the basic parameters of the configuration file within the SD card itself. In order to do what we're going to do today, you're going to need your finished Saber, which I have this one fresh off the charger. It charged all night to make sure that the battery was good. As I've said before, with a lot of Plector Labs soundboards, if you have a low battery, sometimes you can get a false swing all the time. So you want to make sure you have a fully charged battery to rule out the fact that if it's a little too sensitive for the swings, you just want to make sure that the battery is not the issue. But we have here our finished Graflex Saber, and if I remove the pommel here and I turn the kill key, remember we don't have to remove it. With this style kill key that comes with this Goth 3D chassis, all you have to do is turn it. As you can see, my crystal chamber lights up, my boot sound activates, and we can activate the Saber. As you can see, we have full sound. Full swing effects, clash effects. And if we hold the button down again, we can go into our second sound bank, which is the Dark Meat sound font. Now we're on to the Dark Meat. As you can see, it's a much more menacing boot sound. The swing sounds are a little quieter, but the clash sounds are a little more threatening. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually get rid of the stock sound fonts, and because this is an Empire Strikes Back Graflex, I'm actually going to be putting on some Empire Strikes Back themed sound fonts. In order to do that, what you're going to need to do is I'm going to twist my kill key to cut power to the board. I don't want any power. Excuse me. I don't want any power going to it. I'm going to push in and I'm going to remove my micro SD card from the soundboard. In order to put this into your computer, as you can see, it is just a small little SanDisk 4GB micro SD. If your computer does not have a slot on it compatible with the micro SD, you're going to need a micro SD adapter. And this goes to a much bigger port, and you simply take your micro SD and you insert it face down and just slide it right in, just like that. And then you would insert this whole thing into the appropriate slot on your computer. Now, these soundboards do not come with this adapter. You have to buy this separately. You can either get it, I'm not sure if the Custom Saber Shop sells it. If they do, I will leave a link. Or you can get it from basically anywhere, Walmart, Amazon, anything like that. I will leave a link for it as well from the places that you can buy it. But from here, we can just insert this into the computer, and we can go about changing our sound fonts. So let's jump over to the computer, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now that we're back at the computer, what we can go ahead and do is start editing our sound fonts. I'm going to be using Windows 10. If you have Windows 7 or Windows 8, it should be very similar, although probably not identical. If you're on Mac, I can't help you because I don't own a Mac. I don't know how the files are set up. But the first thing we're going to want to do is you're going to want to insert your SD card using the adapter into the tower of your computer or into your appropriate slot. And then I'm going to go down to my Start button. I'm going to bring up my Documents. As you can see, my Documents folder, and we have my file tree here on the side. Now if we go down the list, we can find our Nano Biscotti version 2. SD card. Now it says version 2, whether you have the version 2 or version 3, they're both labeled the same because they use the same SD card. The only difference between the Nano Biscotti version 2 and 3 is hardware. The software is identical. So we can go ahead and open our folder here for the Nano Biscotti, and we can see we have Bank 1, we have Bank 2, preferences and revision, text files. If we open Bank 1, excuse me, you can see we have the boot sounds, we have all the clash sounds, the configuration file, hum, power off, power on, swing files. The Nano Biscotti uses 8 clash effects, 8 swing effects, 1 power off, 1 power on, 1 hum, and 1 boot sound per sound file, that is, per sound bank. If we go into bank 2, this is our dark meat file, and we have the same file names, but everything, these sound fonts are actually different compared to what we have in bank 1. This is the dark side. Bank 1 is the light side. So what we can do is we can back out of this, get back to our main folder here, and I'm going to go over to my desktop over here. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go down to new, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to name this Nano Biscotti version 3 sound fonts. And within this folder, I'm going to open the folder up, and I'm going to bring this folder over here, and I'm going to create a new folder within this folder, and I'm going to name that folder Original Sound Fonts. I'm also going to open that folder, and as you can see, this folder is empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my SD card. I'm going to shift click on the bottom one to highlight everything. I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy, I'm going to go back over to my new original sound fonts folder, and I'm going to paste. And now we have an exact copy of what's on the SD card. We now have that on our computer. So it's good to have a backup. You can download brand new files from Plector Labs themselves if you have corrupted files, or if you screw something up. You can always get brand new ones from Plector Labs website. But I'm just going to keep these in my original sound fonts folder, and they're always there. They're unedited, they haven't changed. They're exactly the way that they were. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to open my web browser. I'm going to be using Google Chrome, and we're going to open that, and we're going to go to saberfont.com. This is where most people get their Saber fonts. As you can see, we have Saber fonts, we have Blaster fonts, boot sounds, and then they have their affiliate program and different things. We're going to focus on Saber fonts, so we're going to click on that tab. And as you can see, it loads up, and these are all of our sound fonts that we have available to us. They're in alphabetical order. You can rearrange them by font name, creator name, font format, font price, or optimized for. Optimized meaning either Plector Labs or NEC, which is Nigon Electronics. But today we're going to be focusing on Plector, obviously, because we have the Nano Biscotti version 3. And because I have a Empire Strikes Back style Graflex, I'm going to be looking for a good episode 5 sound font. And I know from doing this before that if I go down and I find Bespin 2. Bespin 2 was created by Rob Petcow, or Mad Cow of Genesis Custom Sabers. He created this amazing font that sounds just like Luke's Graflex during his battle against Vader in episode 5 on Cloud City. So that's the one I'm going to use. I'm also going to use, if we go down here, I'm going to use this one as well, Dagobah HD. This one was created by Juan Sith, also optimized for Plector. This one mimics the sound of the Graflex from episode 5 when Luke was training on Dagobah. The Nano Biscotti has two different sound font files we can use, so I'm going to use both of them on this Graflex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to Bespin 2. If you want to see what the sound fonts sound like before you actually purchase them, you can click on Details, and this one has a description, but you can also click Preview, and it will open a video showing off the sound fonts themselves. Now, not every sound font has a preview video. Most of Rob's do, and many other people do videos for theirs as well. So it's just a nice way of being able to get a demonstration before you actually spend the money and download it. But I know that these two sound really well together, so I'm going to go to Add to Cart. And as you can see, we have our Bespin 2. I'm going to click on Continue Shopping, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to find my Dagobah HD. I'm going to click Add to Cart as well. Now normally, when you're done, you just check out with PayPal, and it will bring you to a page where you can just click on the download file. But I've already downloaded these, I've already paid for them, so I'm not going to pay for them again. That doesn't make any sense. So normally what you do, like I said, just check out with PayPal, download them, and they will be dumped as a zip folder, a zip file that has to be extracted in your downloads folder on your PC. So we can go there now. I can close this because we're pretty much done with that. Go back to the Start menu, go back to Documents, and I can go to my downloads. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch of random downloads here, and I have, if we scroll down, I have my Bespin 2 sound font right here, so we can open that up and I get this little notification. But over here you can see I have my zip file with my Bespin 2, and it has all of the Bespin 2 sound fonts inside of it. As you can see, we have a lot more than what we had for the Nano Biscotti version 3. We have blaster deflects, we have 16 clash sounds, we have combos, we have force sounds, we have lockup, more power-ons, spins, stabs, 16 swing effects. You don't need to worry about all the ones the Nano Biscotti doesn't use. We're going to copy and paste all of these into the folder, and the ones that the Nano Biscotti doesn't use, it'll just skip over. So we don't need to worry about deleting any of those or anything like that. Excuse me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all of these files, and we're going to back out, and we're going to look at this folder here, and we're going to click on Extract To. Now this is the extraction path and options. This is basically when we pull all of these files out of the zip folder. This is telling me where all of these things are going to go. Now it's telling me it's going to go to my C drive, my users folder, my user folder, downloads, and then it's going to create a folder called Bespin 2 MC CF7 for Crystal Focus 7. Now I already have that file created for my previous folder, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this 02. Normally if you're doing this for the first time, you just stick with whatever it gives you, and just remember what it is, or you can change it to send it to wherever you want. So I'm just going to click OK. Those files are going to be extracted. I'm going to close that. I'm going to go back to my documents, and I'm going to go back to my downloads, and as you can see, I have my Bespin 2 MC Crystal Focus 7. That's my original one, and now I have my one that I just extracted. So if we open that, here is my Crystal Focus 7 Bespin 2, and here are all of my sounds. They have been unzipped, they've been unpacked. We can put that over there for now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing for my Dagobah one, my Dagobah sound fonts that I already downloaded. I'm going to go back to my downloads, I'm going to find the folder, and here it is right here. Here is my Dagobah wave file. So I'm going to click on that. Close that again. And I'm going to extract. And as you can see, it comes up with the same thing. C, users, my folder, downloads, Dagobah. And I'm just going to rename this to 02. Normally, you would not do this. You would just leave it as it is, and that will be good enough. I'm going to click OK. It's going to extract everything. I can close that. And we can bring back up another documents, go to downloads, and now we have my Dagobah Crystal Focus 5 Wave 2 file with all of my Dagobah HD sound fonts. Now you'll notice that this one doesn't have as many sound effects as the Bespin 2, and that's because it was optimized for an older version of the Crystal Focus, with not as many options, but it still has more options than the Nano Biscotti uses, so that's perfectly fine. So right now I'm just going to close that folder. We still have our Nano Biscotti version 2, our SD card folder open over here. I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to open my folder that I created with my Nano Biscotti version 3 sound fonts on my desktop. I'm going to bring that over here. Now I still have my original sound fonts in it, copy and pasted from the SD card. I'm going to go back and I'm going to create another new folder, and I'm going to name this one Bespin 2, and we're going to call that one good. I'm also going to create another new folder called Dagobah HD. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to create a third folder called Bespin 2 and Dagobah HD. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open my original sound fonts. As you can see, my Dagobah HD is empty, Bespin 2 and Dagobah is empty, and Bespin 2 is empty. My original sound fonts still have all of the originals, so I'm going to click, shift click, and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to open each one of these files, and I'm going to paste the original folder into each one of them. Open up this one, paste, open up this one, and I'm going to paste. So now we have the same exact files in all 4 folders. We have our originals, we have our Dagobah, we have our Bespin 2 and Dagobah, and we have our Bespin 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'll close this. Let's go back to our documents, bring that back over here. I'm going to go to my downloads. I'm going to open my Bespin 2 folder with my extracted Bespin 2 files. I'm going to open the folder, and I now have all of my sound effects for the Bespin 2. So I'm going to go into Bespin 2 folder that I just created. I'm going to go into Bank 1, and here we have all of the originals from the Nano Biscotti version 3. So I'm going to go and I'm going to take all of the ones from my Bespin 2 folder. I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to shift click to highlight each and every one of them. Right click. I'm going to go to copy. I'm going to go back to my Bespin 2 folder on the desktop, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to click paste. And what this is going to do is it's going to put all of these files in this folder. And as you can see, it says copying 63 items, but the destination has 21 files with the same names. Now that means that all of the files that were in my Nano Biscotti version 3 or 2 sound font file have similar names to what's in the Bespin 2 sound font file. And that's perfectly fine. What we're going to do is we're going to replace all of them. So now I have all of my Bespin 2 sound fonts in this folder. They have erased and replaced all of the ones that were in there, as well as added all of the ones that weren't in there to begin with, but it kept the config file because the new sound fonts do not come with a configuration file in them. The configuration file is separate for each soundboard, whether you have the Nano Biscotti version 3, the Crystal Focus, the Crystal Shard, anything like that. They all run their own config file. So you need to make sure that you always have that. That's why we copy and paste from the new folder to the old folder, so that you retain your original configuration file. So as of right now, if we go back, our Bespin 2 folder that we created in Bank 1 now has all of our Bespin 2 sound fonts. Bank 2 is still all of the original Nano Biscotti version 2 or 3 sound fonts. We haven't touched those, but Bank 1 is all Bespin 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my Bespin 2 folder. I'm going to go back to my documents, go back to my downloads. I'm going to open my Dagobah file, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy, I'm going to copy all my files, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to open up my Dagobah HD file over here, which still has all of the original sound fonts in it from the Nano Biscotti version 3. I'm going to open Bank 1, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste. Now, again, it's copying 36 items, 21 files have the same names. I'm going to replace them all. And as you can see, it replaced all of them, as well as added in the ones that the Nano Biscotti doesn't have. But as you can see, the only one that hasn't changed is my config file, and that's because the Dagobah file that I downloaded from Saberfont doesn't have a config file. That's still the same exact one that was in the original Nano Biscotti version 3. You always need to have that. So as of right now, Bank 1 in my Dagobah folder is now all Dagobah. Again, Bank 2 is all original Nano Biscotti version 3. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up my Bespin 2 and Dagobah HD, and I'm going to open Bank 1, which is still all original Nano Biscotti version 3. I'm going to open my documents. I'm going to go to downloads. I'm going to open my Bespin 2 folder. I'm going to copy and paste all of these files once again. Copy. Paste. Yes, I want to replace. So now that file, font file number 1, is all Bespin 2. I'm going to go into Bank 2. I'm going to close this. I still have all of my Dagobah files open here. I'm going to highlight that one, go down to the bottom, shift click, right click, copy. Make sure I'm in Bank 2. Go off to the side, paste. Yes, I want to replace. And now we have Dagobah in all of these sound fonts. So Bank 1 is all Bespin, and Bank 2 is all Dagobah HD. As you can see, we still have our file with the original sound fonts from the Nano Biscotti. We have our Bespin 2 folder with only Bank 1 having Bespin. Bank 2 has original Nano Biscotti. Our Dagobah HD folder, Bank 1 has all Dagobah HD. Bank 2 has standard Nano Biscotti. And we have my Bespin 2 and Dagobah, which Bank 1 is Bespin 2 and Bank 2 is Dagobah. So now we can go ahead and close this, and I'm going to bring up, I'm going to get rid of all of these. I'm going to bring back up my Nano Biscotti version 2 or 3 SD card. Now, as we can see, we still have all of the originals on the SD card. Nothing's changed. Everything is exactly the way that it was. If we plugged this SD card into the Saber, it would run exactly like it did right out of the box. So I'm going to open up my sound files here. We have all these folders that we just created and edited. I'm going to go back to my SD card. I'm actually going to back out of it so I have all of my files here. I'm going to right click on the file in my file tree, and I'm going to click Format. And what Format is going to do is it's going to completely erase and clean out everything on the SD card. Make sure that you do this after you've already saved your files to your desktop. You don't want to do this first. You want to do this right before you're ready to put your new fonts on. So I have my backups here of all my originals. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Start, and it's going to give me a warning. Formatting will erase all data on this disk. To format the disk, click OK. I'm going to click OK. Formatting is complete. Click Close. So now I can go back and click on my Nano Biscotti version 2 or 3, and as you can see, this folder is now completely empty. My SD card is wiped clean. So what I'm going to do is you can go back to your sound font files, and you can do basically anything you'd like. You can take your originals, you can open it up and copy and paste all of these, which are the originals. You can put them back on the SD card, which I don't know why you would. You can take just your Dagobah and put them on. You can take just your Bespin and put them on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Bespin 2 and Dagobah HD folder. I'm going to open them up. I'm going to take my new Bespin 2 Bank 1 folder, my new Dagobah HD Bank 2 folder, and all the other ones. I'm going to shift click, highlight them all, and I'm just going to drag and drop and copy them directly to the Nano Biscotti version 3 SD card folder. As you can see, this will take just a minute, and it'll speed up a little bit. And there you have it. Now we have all of our files on our SD card, and as you can see, if we open this up, we have the blaster effects, we have the 16 swing effects, we have everything. Bank 2 is the 9 swing effects, so we know that this is now Bank 1 is Bespin 2, Bank 2 is Dagobah HD. So this is now our SD card. These are now permanently, well, not permanently, but these are now on our SD card. So if we were to eject this from the computer right now and put it into our Saber, that would run all of these sound fonts, and it would no longer do the typical sound fonts that come with the SD card. And that's all it takes. You just have to copy the originals from the SD card, put them into your own folder, and then copy all of the contents into your new folders, copy and paste your new files into your new folders, and then put those completed folders back on the cleared out SD card. It's not a very complicated process once you get the hang of it. You do it a few times and it really becomes very simple, very clear. Hopefully I've explained it well. And from here, what we can do is if you open this up, you can actually you can double click on each of these blaster sounds, or any of these sounds really. You can click on them and it will open your default media browser, and it will play the sound effects, so you can actually get an idea of what each one sounds like. So since the Nano Biscotti only uses 8 swing effects and 8 clash effects, but here we have 16 clashes and 16 swings, we have like 4 or 5 power ons, things like that. What we can do is you can go through and you can actually click on them and you can actually listen to each one, and pick the ones that you like. Now the Nano Biscotti is only going to use swings numbered swing 1 through swing 8. Swing 9 through swing 16, it's just not going to read those. It's not going to see them, it's not going to use them. So if you want, let's say you want swing 14, you're going to need to rename that either swing 1 all the way through swing 8. So if you wanted that, you can rename one of these that you don't want to use and rename the one that you do want to use. So for example, I know from experience that power on, just regular power on, is the one that the Nano Biscotti is going to use. It's not going to see or use power on 2, 3, 4, or F. It's only going to use power on. but I like power on 2 better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. I'm going to rename this power on 5. So the SD card, the Nano Biscotti will no longer see power on 5. So if you don't have at least one font that the soundboard recognizes, you're going to get a beep instead of a sound font. So when you go to power on, if we left it just like this, we just get a beep and we get no power on sound because it doesn't see one that it recognizes. So I'm going to take power on 2, and I'm just going to rename that power on. Now this will allow the board to see this as the sound font that we want to use. What I can even do is I can even, if I want to, I can go back and I can rename this power on 2. It doesn't matter because whether it's 2 or 5, it's never going to use it, it's never going to see it, but it is now going to see power on, which is technically power on 2. Like I said, I just like that sound effect a little better. Power on 2 sounds a little more classic. The original power on sounds a little too dark side to me. So you simply have to rename your files what the board can see. The Nano Biscotti only uses one power on, so it's simply power on. So any of these that you want to use, you just have to name it that and then change the name of the other one to something that it's not going to use. And you can do that for all of them. You can go down the list for your clash effects and anything like that. You can even rename your blaster effects clash 1 through 8, and it will use one of the blaster effects during your random clash effects. You can name it whatever you want. You can even use some of your swing sounds as or some of your spin sounds. You can rename them as swing sounds. You can basically do whatever you want as long as you have the files named what the Nano Biscotti uses, and you can always find that out by going back to your original files, going back to your banks, and all of these files here, these are what the Nano Biscotti uses, and this is what you need to make sure you have. You need at least one boot, clash 1 through 8. Always make sure you have your config file, hum, power off, regular power on, and then swing 1 through 8. You need to have at least these in order for the Saber to function properly. So now that we have all of our sound fonts put on our SD card over here, what we can do is we can go into our let's go into bank 1, and we can go into our configuration file. We can double click to open that up, and that brings it up over here. And as you can see, it's just a notepad text program. Nano Biscotti dark meat. They both say dark meat, no matter what font you're on, they all say dark meat. And we just have our parameters set up here. We have our volume, our drive, our F drive, off, deep, resume, things like that. And if you look at the Nano Biscotti owner's manual, it will give you an in-depth explanation as to what each one of these does and what the parameters are. I'm not going to get into that now. That's up to you to try and figure that out for yourself. And if you're a little cautious about it, I wouldn't really suggest messing with these unless you know what you're doing. It's fine to experiment as long as you have your originals saved on the computer. That way, if you do screw something up, you can always go back and just replace them with the original files. But basically, what we're going to be looking at is the drive is for the main LED output. If you're not using a resistor for your main LED, you can lower this value. The F drive is flash on clash. Off is how long you have to hold the activation button down in order to turn the Saber off. LC is light clash. HS is high swing, LS is low swing, I is the overall intensity. Then we have our shimmer, we have our flash on clash, we have our swing clash. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all of these. Basically right now I'm going to be focusing on our swing effects. I noticed that before I tried this, my Saber was giving me a few false swings even with a charged battery. So that tells me that the swing parameter is a little too sensitive. So I'm going to go to the LS, which is light swing. It is a 0 to 100 parameter. So what I can do is, if you lower this value, it will make the saber more sensitive to swings. If you increase this value, it will make them less resistant to swings. So it'll make it it'll take more force to activate a swing effect. So I'm going to increase this to about 55. I'm just going to increase it by a couple points. It'll make it a little more resilient, a little more durable. It won't activate a swing sound quite as bad. And I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to click Save. So now we have that set up to 55. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to my SD card over here. I'm going to back out. I'm going to go to Bank 2. I'm going to open my configuration file for Bank 2 because they run their own separate configuration files. You have to edit them both separately. I'm going to go back down to my LS, or my light swing. I'm going to increase that to 55 once again. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to click Save. So hopefully that has increased the parameter for the swing effect so that it takes more force to activate a swing sound. The swing sounds and the clash sounds are simply registered on the same unit on the soundboard. A small motion will activate a swing, and a high enough motion will activate a clash. And you can edit these parameters right here. You just look in the owner's manual; it will tell you how to do that. So I have saved these. So what I'm going to go now do is I'm going to close this. I'm going to back out of my SD card. I have my Bank 1 and my Bank 2 all set with my Bespin 2 and my Dagobah HD sound fonts. I'm going to back out. Now I have just all of my documents here. I'm going to go back down to my SD card file. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click eject just to safely eject it from the computer. As you can see, it no longer appears, so I can go ahead and close that. I'm going to go ahead and close that as well. And now you can safely remove the SD card from the computer, and you can put it back in your saber. So let's go back to the bench. We'll put this back in, and we'll see how it came out. Okay, now that we're back at the bench, we have our SD card adapter. I'm going to remove the micro SD card. I'm going to reinsert it into the back of the saber. As you can see, my SD card slot. I'm just going to slide that in. Slide it in just like that. I'm going to turn my kill key to send power back to the board. And as you can see, we have the Bespin 2 boot up sound. My crystal chamber is nice and illuminated, so I'm going to go ahead and thread my pommel back on. And let's fire this up and see what it sounds like. We have that nice hum. We have nice sound effects. As you can see, it's not overly sensitive. All of our clash effects. Very distinctive of episode 5, especially that double clash. That one right there, I love that sound effect. So now we have our Bespin 2 sound font. So if we hold down the button and turn it off, and we hold it down again for longer this time until we hear the beep, it will change to the Dagobah sound font.
What's in there? Only what you take with you.
And that is the awesome boot up sound for the Dagobah sound font. So now we can fire that one up. As you can see, it has a similar power on sound. It has a slightly different hum. It has a different set of swing sounds. Kind of hear a hint of Vader's breathing in the background of some of these. But basically, we have our sound fonts all done. Then we can hold it down again and we can go back to Bestman 2. So that's basically it. We have our completed saber with our completed crystal chamber inside. We have our new sound fonts loaded on. This saber is pretty much all done. So let's go ahead and pop a blade in it and just see what it looks like completely finished off. So I have here a 7/8 inch diameter blade. This is a 32 inch length blade. This is a clear blade from Vader's Vault. As you can see, Vader's Vault has the dust caps they put on because they do not glue in their cellophane. They keep it loose, and that's so that when the blade bends, as you can see, the cellophane will crinkle inside, but when you straighten the blade back out, the cellophane goes back to normal. Companies that glue their cellophane in, once they crinkle, they stay that way, and it really looks like crap. So always make sure that you have the dust cap on when you're not, when you don't have the blade in the saber. Otherwise, the cellophane will pop right back out, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get back in. So what we can do is just put this off to the side. We can loosen our retention screws. Now normally you would only have one, but because I have the Graflex clamp switch, I've decided to use both of these as retention screws. We can get our blade plug out of here. Go ahead and just remove our blade plug, and now we can simply insert our blade. It goes in until it rests on the bottom of the, or I should say the top of the LED module. Tighten your retention screws down. As you can see, this blade isn't going anywhere. It's nice and tight. We can go ahead and turn this on. As you can see, it is a beautiful, beautiful blue with our full swing of sounds, clash sounds.
What's in there? Only what you take with you.
And it really does look awesome. It looks great in person, very bright, very blue. So there you have it. We have our completed Graflex 2.0 with integrated and fully lit crystal chamber. It looks great. It functions as well as you would hope, even better. So if you've been following along this whole time, you should now have a completed saber similar to this. So if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to shoot me a message. Stay tuned for any future videos I may do regarding any other sabers or any other projects in general. But I sincerely thank you for watching this video, and may the Force be with you.